James Harden has been ridiculed time and time again for his quote-unquote flopping, but there's actually some real skill behind it. How does he do it? Let's find out. Okay, let's take a look at this first clip. So you can see James Harden is taking on the Nuggets, and as he just goes to work against Jamal Murray, he's going to swing his arms through, draw that foul. Looks like a typical James Harden flop, right? Well, not really. Let's look a little bit closer. If you look at the replay of this clip, you can see Jamal Murray has his right hand right in that left hip area of James Harden. Harden understands this, so he's going to actually swing his left hand kind of underneath Murray's arm as he rises up for that three. And as you can see, that rises Murray's hand up, it draws the contact, and technically that is a foul. Did James Harden intentionally swing his left arm through? I mean, sure he did, of course he did, but he drew the foul, he did his job, and he succeeded in this matchup. And you can see it even clearer from this angle. You know, James Harden taking on Jamal Murray, the battle of the highlight colored shoes, neon yellow versus neon green. And Jamal Murray's just going to kind of reach that right arm in, try and get a steal, try and swipe it away from James Harden. You know, James Harden, one of the best offensive players in the league. If you want to learn more about that, go check out the last video. And instead of just letting Jamal Murray kind of reach in there, James Harden's going to take Murray's reach and use it to his advantage. He's going to swipe up with his left arm, basically grab Murray's hand, and just rise up as he goes to shoot that three. And you know, that technically is a foul. Is James Harden intentionally doing that to draw a foul? Well, sure, but you can't really blame him, can you? I mean, an NBA player is going to take the free throws when he can get them, and if James Harden can draw that contact and create a free throw opportunity, he's going to do so. You can't hate on him. To me, that counts as a skill. Learning how to flop, quote unquote, and learning how to draw fouls is a real skill that can help players in the NBA, and you know, I don't think you can hate on him for that. And this clip really shows what makes James Harden the best player at drawing fouls in the NBA, the best flopper in the NBA, which is his creativity. You know, every NBA player is going to kind of kick their head back if they get contact. Every NBA player is going to yell ref or yell and one and try and get that foul call. But not every NBA player is going to do these things, these little things like grab the player's arm as you go to shoot a three to draw a foul. I mean, I'm sure they would, but James Harden is just so creative, so intelligent, really understands positioning, understands the mind of the defender, and he's really able to use it to his advantage more times than not and get to the free throw line a ton of times per game. This next clip shows a technique used by tons of NBA players to draw fouls, and especially James Harden, and that is the sweep through with your arms when you're driving the basket. Let's take a look. As you can see here, James Harden is taking on the Nets, and they're really swarming him here with their defense. They're sending a ton of players at him, trying to really collapse their defense onto James Harden. It leaves Russell Westbrook wide open, but we all know that James Harden has a score-first mentality, Mamba mentality. Let's go get it, James Harden. Go attack the basket, as you can see right here. And he's going to kind of sweep through right there against Joe Harris. You can kind of see it in that clip, finishes the and one. But let's take a look a little bit closer at some instant replays. Taking a look at this instant replay, you can see Joe Harris right there is kind of back and helping. James Harden beats his man off the drive, so Joe Harris is going to have to slide in to help. But you can look at his right arm right there is just reached way far out. So what Harden does is he's going to sweep underneath that right arm and come up with the ball. Again, Harris kind of slaps at it. Harden draws the contact, makes the facial expression. You can see right there, draws the foul, gets the ref's attention, and is going to hit that floater. And now another angle right here, and the thing I love about this angle is you can look at James Harden's eyes. Now let's look at it right here. Look where his eyes are looking. They're looking right at Joe Harris's arm. He sees that arm, so he's then staring at the hand, at the arm as he brings the ball up. Once he gets the contact, he makes a facial expression and then shifts his eyes towards the basket, so he's able to finish that floater over Jared Allen. Great finishing right there by Harden. Great really understanding of the defense. Great job drawing that foul by James Harden. And to me, it's clips like these that really separate James Harden from just your everyday flopper at the local Y yelling and one at every play versus a superstar who is able to draw fouls at an extremely high rate. I mean, not every player is going to have the wherewithal to kind of look down at that defender's arm and understand the positioning and really kind of intentionally sweep that arm up. Like when he was driving, he wasn't even looking at the basket, he was looking at the defender's arm. Not every player is going to be able to do that, but to me, that's what separates James Harden. He's just so smart, such a great wherewithal about him, and a great understanding of the game as a whole. This next clip shows how James Harden can really use momentum to create contact on the drive and draw that foul. James Harden right here is taking on the Denver Nuggets, and as you can see, he's absolutely cooking Torrey Craig right here. Crossovers between the legs, combo moves. If you want to learn more about James Harden's moves and what his size-up moves and his finishing moves really are, make sure to go check out the last video. Clips very similar to this one is actually featured in that last video, but basically James Harden sets up his defender, crosses him over, gets into that lane, and now let's see him work this foul. So as James Harden beats Craig off of the dribble, you can see that Craig is just kind of pinned against Harden's left shoulder. And what this really does is it gives Harden a huge advantage because he understands Craig's momentum. I mean, Craig's momentum is taking him towards that baseline side. It's taking him towards James Harden. It's pushing into Harden's body. So what Harden's going to do is he's going to kind of slow down a little bit, push a little back into Craig, and then use Craig's momentum to kind of push off and make it really look like he got pushed really hard and sell that foul. And as you can see here, he's able to finish that and one, falling to the ground. Great finish, great contact, great drawing of a foul, and really just another smart play by James Harden. Now, is this play a flop? Well, maybe, probably. Torrey Craig probably didn't actually push James Harden that hard, but, you can't blame James Harden from this situation. He's doing his job. His job is not to go out there and try and dunk on everyone and make highlight reels. His job is to go out there and try and win the game. And, a lot of times you may win the game by drawing fouls and getting to the free throw line. And, James Harden does that the best out of probably any player in history, and this is a great example why. Now, I'm sure y'all have seen some clips of James Harden's 4-point plays before. They're all over the internet, but let's take a look at how he actually draws them. Here, James Harden is taking on the Suns, going up against Cameron Johnson, the rookie of the Suns, and I was actually considering using this clip for the last video because it uses a lot of those points, but it'll work well here too. You can see here Harden kind of lulls Johnson to sleep with that crossover and then really pounces with that hard between the legs move while stepping towards Johnson. But then because Harden created that space, when he does step back for that 3-point shot, he pulls back for that 3, he has a ton of space, so Johnson has to jump forwards out towards Harden. And you can look at that line right there. Johnson's momentum is taking him towards Harden instead of straight up. Instead of like jumping straight up to protect the shot, Johnson has to jump out towards Harden. And what Harden does in this situation is he's going to kick his legs out. And you can see how those lines are intersecting. Those are the players' momentums. Those lines represent the momentum of each player. And when those momentums cross, that means that Harden will be able to draw contact very, very efficiently, as he does in this clip. Draws the contact, kicks his legs out, gets hit, nails the 3. Very, very smart move here by James Harden. And look at Harden, man. So inspirational. Just dancing along right there. Another 4-point play added to his resume. I don't know what Cam Johnson's thinking. He's probably thinking, I don't know whose idea it was to put me up against James Harden in an ISO situation. I'm a rookie going up against one of the best offensive players in the league. Like, I don't think so. I mean, at least that guy's having fun. But yeah, James Harden, genius at work. Alright, I love this clip. I think it's really funny. It's probably the most blatant example of drawing a foul that you will ever see, so let's take a look. Now, James Harden's here taking on Paul George, one of the best defenders in the NBA, so it's a tough matchup for James Harden, but he's going to kind of get the step going left, and he's going to have a little bit of a lane. But you can look at his right arm kind of slide in underneath George's left arm and give George basically a half hug in this situation. And now the important thing to remember for this clip is that this referee right here has a clear view of James Harden's right arm, and he can see exactly what James Harden is doing in this situation. But the referee who ends up making this call is down towards that left side, so that referee can't even see James Harden's right arm. So all that referee sees is Paul George basically attached to James Harden at the hip. Little does that referee know that James Harden is literally making Paul George stay attached at the hip, but nonetheless, as James Harden attacks the rim, he's going to have George stay next to him because he's holding him next to him, and that ref is going to make that call because James Harden really sold it there. And let's do some quick lip reading right here by Paul George. He immediately throws his arms out in disagreement, as he should. He got kind of screwed over. Right there he says, "Oh no, you can't call that." Just following the ref right there, trying to make his case. Right there, I think he said that's not a foul though. He said, "I have my arms out like this. Both arms like this." And he's done right there. But you really can't blame Paul George. He did get kind of screwed over in that case. James Harden just manipulated the situation. But again, it's very smart by Harden because he knows where the refs are. Like, even playing the game, as much things are going on the court, James Harden has the wherewithal to understand where the refs are in the situation and what refs are going to give him what call. And if you want any more clarification on this play, just take a look at this replay right here. I mean, James Harden literally brings Paul George into his body, but because he has understanding of where the referees are, he's able to get the call on this play. And now, I'm not saying that these plays by Harden are, good for the integrity of the game. You know, he does really kind of manipulate the situation a lot for his benefit and advantage, but you know, that's his goal. His goal is not to go out there and, you know, please the fans or try and win in a certain way. His goal is to go out there and play the best he can and win the game, and plays like this will help you win the game. And you know, too often I feel like people will just assume that any local Joe Blow can go to the NBA and flop their way to some free throws, but I hope that this video really shows that, you know, there is some skill behind James Harden's ability to get to the free throw line. So in conclusion, does James Harden flop? Well, sure, I guess so, but I'd like to call it more manipulating the situation to create a foul, because you look at these clips and I think every one of them could be considered a foul. You know, did James Harden initiate the foul? Did he manipulate the situation to create a foul? Sure, I guess so, but they were fouls nonetheless. And you know, that's not an easy thing to do. If it was an easy thing to do, every player would be out here doing the same thing Harden's doing, but the fact is that they're not, because it does take some real skill to do that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, do all that stuff, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.